In Genoa City, tension never truly disappears, it only waits for the right moment to explode. And today, that moment feels dangerously close. At the center of it all is a woman who refuses to back down, Phyllis Summers. For weeks, she has been fighting a battle she believes is unfair, targeted, and deeply personal. According to her, the scandal involving the AI-generated emails was never just about corporate theft. It was about power, control, and revenge. Phyllis Summers feels cornered, but not defeated. Because in her mind, if she is going down, she is not going down alone. What Phyllis doesn't know is that every move she makes is being watched closely by Victor Newman, the man who never loses control of a situation for long. Victor Newman has built an empire on strategy, patience, and dominance. And when he believes someone has crossed him, he doesn't simply react, he calculates. The conflict between them began with the controversial use of Cane Ashby's AI system. A technology designed to innovate, but instead used as a weapon in a corporate war that spiraled far beyond anyone's expectations. Phyllis insists she only used what was already in motion. That Victor had already opened the door when he used the same system against Cane and his business interests. But in Genoa City, justification rarely matters more than evidence. And right now, the evidence is turning against her. Christine Blair is preparing to move forward with serious criminal charges. In her eyes, this is no longer a corporate disagreement, it is a digital fraud case with real consequences. And she is determined to make sure someone pays the price. Not just financially, but legally. As pressure builds, Phyllis begins to feel the walls closing in. Every conversation, every document, every digital trace feels like a trap waiting to snap shut. But instead of retreating, she starts thinking differently. If Victor Newman is responsible for manipulating evidence, then maybe the only way out is to make him expose himself. A trap. A risky, dangerous, and potentially self-destructive plan that could change everything. Meanwhile, Cane Ashby finds himself stuck in the middle of a storm he never fully controlled. His AI creation, once seen as innovation, is now the center of a legal nightmare. And standing beside him is Amanda Sinclair, a sharp and determined attorney who understands exactly how dangerous this case has become. Amanda knows something most people in Genoa City refuse to admit: this case is not clean. Not on either side. Victor Newman may believe he is untouchable. Phyllis Summers may believe she is justified. But legally, both of them may have crossed lines that cannot be erased. And if Amanda exposes the full truth in court, the entire power structure of this conflict could collapse. Back at the Newman orbit, Victor remains calm, almost too calm. That calmness worries people more than anger ever could. Because when Victor Newman is quiet, it usually means something big is already in motion. And Phyllis, she senses it too. That's why she is preparing her move. Not a defensive move. An offensive one. A confrontation designed to pull Victor into saying something he cannot take back. Something real. Something recorded. Something that could shift the entire legal balance of power. But in Genoa City, every trap has a price. And sometimes, the person setting the trap becomes part of it. As the day moves forward, the stage is quietly being set. Phyllis Summers is no longer just trying to survive. Victor Newman is no longer just defending himself. And the truth is getting closer to the surface than anyone realizes. But when it finally comes out, the question won't be who was right. It will be who is left standing. Genoa City has a way of turning quiet tension into loud destruction. And after the first cracks begin to show, the real game always reveals itself. For Phyllis Summers, the pressure is no longer just emotional, it is strategic. Every step she takes now is about survival, but also control. She has decided that waiting for the legal system to protect her is not an option anymore. So she makes a choice that could change everything. She moves forward with her plan to draw Victor Newman into a direct confrontation. But what she doesn't fully realize is that Victor Newman has already anticipated resistance. Victor is not a man who reacts late. He reacts early, sometimes before others even realize there is a problem. And in this case, he has already begun tightening the net around Phyllis. Behind closed doors at Newman Enterprises, Victor is calm, collected, and dangerously focused. He understands Phyllis better than most people do. He knows she doesn't respond well to pressure. She responds to challenge. And that is exactly what he intends to use against her. Meanwhile, the legal storm is intensifying. Christine Blair is preparing her next move, gathering digital evidence, metadata trails, and communication records tied to the AI-generated emails. In her mind, this is no longer about corporate rivalry. It is about accountability. And she is closing in fast. Cane Ashby finds himself increasingly isolated in the situation. What was once a technological breakthrough tied to his AI system has now become a legal weapon used against multiple people. The weight of responsibility is pressing down on him, even as he insists that the system was manipulated beyond his control. Amanda Sinclair continues to analyze every layer of the case. And what she sees is troubling. This is not a simple case of one side being right and the other wrong. It is a collision of two powerful forces, each bending rules in different ways, each convinced they are justified. Back in her world of uncertainty, Phyllis begins setting the stage for her trap. It is not loud. It is not obvious. In fact, to most people, it would look like a casual conversation waiting to happen. But that is what makes it dangerous. She carefully positions herself for a moment where Victor will feel comfortable enough to speak freely. To underestimate the situation. To believe he is still in full control. Because that is when people make mistakes. However, Victor Newman does not walk into traps blindly. He begins his own counter-move. Without announcing it, without warning, he subtly shifts the power dynamic. He reaches out to individuals connected to the case, tightening influence, applying pressure, and ensuring that when the moment comes, Phyllis will not have as much room to maneuver as she thinks. It is silent warfare. And in Genoa City, silent warfare is often the most dangerous kind. Phyllis senses it almost immediately. Something feels off. The atmosphere around her plan is not as open as she expected. It feels contained. Controlled. As if someone else is already shaping the outcome. Still, she refuses to back down. Because at this point, stepping away would mean surrender. And Phyllis Summers does not surrender easily. So she commits fully. She arranges the confrontation point. A carefully chosen setting where Victor will likely feel confident enough to engage. Everything depends on timing, tone, and one critical mistake from Victor Newman. But even as she prepares, one question lingers in the background. What if Victor already knows? And if he does, then the trap she believes she is setting may already belong to him. As both sides move closer to collision, the city itself feels like it is holding its breath. Because in Genoa City, when two master strategists go head-to-head, only one plan survives. In Genoa City, nothing ever stays theoretical for long. Plans turn into actions, and actions turn into consequences faster than anyone can fully prepare for. Phyllis Summers has reached that point now. The trap is no longer an idea in her mind, it is in motion. Every detail has been carefully arranged. The timing, the location, even the way the conversation is expected to unfold. Phyllis knows she cannot force Victor Newman into a confession. But she can guide him toward one. At least, that is what she believes. What makes this moment so dangerous is not just the confrontation itself, it is the illusion of control. Phyllis feels like she is finally stepping ahead of the chaos that has been closing in on her. For days, she has felt hunted by legal pressure, corporate retaliation, and digital evidence that seems to shift every time she looks at it. But now, she is the one setting the stage. Elsewhere, Victor Newman is not waiting passively. He is preparing in his own way. Victor understands that Phyllis is emotional when cornered, but also intelligent when motivated. That combination makes her unpredictable. And unpredictability, in Victor's world, is something that must always be contained, not ignored. So he adjusts. Not loudly. Not visibly. But effectively. He makes subtle moves within his network, ensuring that when this confrontation happens, he will not be exposed without protection. He is not just walking into a conversation. He is walking into a controlled environment that he believes he can still dominate. Meanwhile, legal pressure continues to rise like a storm building on the horizon. Christine Blair is closer than ever to assembling a complete timeline of events surrounding the AI-generated emails. Every piece of data she collects seems to tighten the case further, not just around Phyllis Summers, but around Victor Newman as well. What started as a corporate scandal is now shaping into something much more serious. A shared liability situation. Cane Ashby remains trapped in the center of it, watching as his name becomes attached to a system that he insists was never meant to be used this way. The frustration is becoming personal now, not just professional. Amanda Sinclair continues to review the structure of the case, and what she sees is increasingly alarming. There are gaps in the narrative. Intentions that do not fully align with actions. And evidence that seems selectively powerful depending on who is presenting it. To Amanda, this is no longer about who is innocent. It is about how many people are guilty in different ways. But the confrontation is what everyone is unknowingly moving toward. Phyllis arrives first. She chooses the location carefully, neutral enough to avoid suspicion, but private enough to ensure Victor will not have immediate interference. Her phone is ready. Not visibly, but strategically. Every second of this encounter matters. Then Victor arrives. Calm. Composed. Controlled. Exactly as expected. The air between them changes instantly. This is not just a meeting. It is a collision of two people who both believe they are right and both believe the other is dangerous. Phyllis begins carefully, steering the conversation toward the AI emails, the manipulation of evidence, and the broader pattern of corporate retaliation. Victor listens. Too calmly. And that calmness unsettles her more than anger ever could. Because Victor Newman does not usually listen without a reason. As she pushes harder, trying to provoke a slip, a reaction, something she can use, Victor does something unexpected. He shifts the conversation. Not defensively, but strategically. He begins referencing details that suggest he knows more about her position than she expected. Not just the case, but her intentions. Her setup. The trap itself. For the first time, Phyllis hesitates. And in that hesitation, the balance begins to shift. Because if Victor truly understands what she is doing, then this is no longer her trap. It is a shared battlefield. And neither of them is fully in control anymore. As the conversation continues, one thing becomes clear. This encounter is not going to end with resolution. It is going to end with exposure. And once the truth starts spilling out, there will be no way to stop it. In Genoa City, every plan feels solid until the moment it starts to breathe on its own. For Phyllis Summers, that moment arrives inside the confrontation she believed she was controlling. What was supposed to be her calculated trap is no longer behaving like one. It is evolving. Victor Newman stands across from her with that familiar composure, the kind that never reveals panic, never shows doubt, never breaks under pressure. But today, there is something different in the way he watches her. Not surprise. Recognition. As if he had already mapped out this exact conversation long before she stepped into it. Phyllis tries to regain control of the direction. She pushes harder on the AI-generated emails, the manipulation of evidence, and the idea that Victor escalated the situation first. Her goal is simple: force a slip. A sentence. A reaction that can later be used as leverage. But Victor does not give her what she wants. Instead, he gives her something more dangerous. Clarity. He begins speaking in a tone that is calm but deliberate, carefully outlining how every move in this conflict has multiple layers. He does not deny involvement. He does not confirm innocence either. He simply reframes everything. And that is when Phyllis realizes something unsettling. Victor is not defending himself. He is documenting her mindset. Every word she says, every emotional escalation, every accusation, he is absorbing it, letting it hang in the air as if it already has legal weight. Phyllis feels the shift instantly. The conversation is no longer about exposing Victor. It is about exposing both of them. Meanwhile, outside this confrontation, the legal machinery continues to tighten. Christine Blair is now treating the case as a full-scale digital fraud investigation. Her focus is expanding beyond simple email manipulation. She is looking at intent, coordination, and timing patterns that suggest multiple actors influencing the same system. And that is where things become dangerous for everyone involved. Because once intent is established, the case stops being about who started it and starts being about who escalated it. Cane Ashby is becoming increasingly alarmed as Amanda Sinclair reviews the latest findings. Amanda is no longer just defending him, she is mapping out a larger structure of responsibility. And what she is discovering is uncomfortable for all sides. There is no clean victim in this situation. Only varying degrees of involvement. Back at the confrontation, Phyllis makes one more attempt to regain control. She pushes Victor again, sharper this time, trying to provoke the kind of reaction that could confirm wrongdoing. But Victor does something unexpected. He steps back emotionally. Not physically, but strategically. He allows silence to fill the space between them. And in that silence, something worse happens than an argument. Interpretation begins. Phyllis starts realizing that Victor may have anticipated her entire approach. Not just the confrontation, but the purpose behind it. The trap itself. And if that is true, then she is no longer the one steering this moment. She is inside it. Victor finally speaks again, this time lowering his voice, almost conversational. He does not threaten her. He does not accuse her. He simply implies that every action she is taking is already being seen through multiple legal and corporate lenses. And that implication lands harder than any direct statement. Phyllis feels it, the subtle but undeniable shift. What she intended as a controlled exposure has turned into a mutual exposure. A shared liability situation. And neither of them can step away without consequences. As the confrontation nears its end, neither victory nor defeat is visible. Only alignment towards something inevitable. Because now, the trap has changed shape. And the question is no longer who set it. It is who will be trapped first when the system finally reacts. In Genoa City, every secret eventually demands payment. And today, the bill finally arrives. The confrontation between Phyllis Summers and Victor Newman doesn't end with shouting. It doesn't end with a clean confession either. It ends the way the most dangerous conflicts often do in this city, quietly, and with consequences that spread far beyond the room. Phyllis stands there for a moment after Victor's final words, trying to process what just happened. What she believed was a controlled setup has dissolved into something far more complicated. There was no victory. No confession. No clean exposure. Only awareness. Victor Newman didn't fall into her trap. Instead, he turned it into a mirror, reflecting everything back at her, including her intentions. And that reflection is now dangerous. Because intent, in legal terms, is just as powerful as action. Outside the confrontation, the legal storm reaches its breaking point. Christine Blair is no longer operating in theory. She is preparing formal escalation based on digital forensic interpretation, communication patterns, and the growing belief that the AI-generated emails were not isolated incidents, but part of a broader coordinated manipulation. And now both Phyllis Summers and Victor Newman are on that radar. Not as opponents, but as linked participants in the same evolving case. Cane Ashby watches everything unravel with growing disbelief. What started as a technological breakthrough tied to his AI system has now become a legal wildfire consuming multiple power players in Genoa City. And there is no clean escape route left. Amanda Sinclair steps forward into full defense mode, but even she cannot ignore what the evidence structure is beginning to suggest. This is no longer just about proving innocence. It is about minimizing damage. Because the court will not see this as a simple corporate disagreement anymore. It will see a chain of decisions, reactions, and escalations, each one feeding the next. Back in the aftermath of the confrontation, Phyllis begins to realize the real consequence of her strategy. If Victor recorded anything, intentionally or unintentionally, this entire exchange could be interpreted in ways she never planned for. And Victor, being Victor, understands this perfectly. He does not chase her. He does not escalate. He simply lets the uncertainty sit. Because uncertainty is often more powerful than action. Phyllis leaves the meeting space with one realization settling in her mind. She tried to trap Victor Newman. But instead, she may have confirmed that she is already inside a much larger legal structure than she ever fully understood. And Victor? He remains exactly as he always is. Unmoved. Unshaken. And always one step ahead of how others think the game is being played. As the sun sets over Genoa City, the truth is no longer hidden. It is fragmented. Spread across conversations, evidence, interpretations, and intentions. And when Christine Blair finally presents her case, no one will be untouched. Not Phyllis. Not Victor. Not Cane. Because in the end, the real twist is not who won the battle. It is that the battle itself may have been designed to make sure nobody wins at all. And in Genoa City, that kind of truth changes everything.